History Museum in London celebrates the bicentenary of the birth of Richard Owen. He invented the word dinosaur, among other things. He founded the museum. Our science correspondent, Christine McGoty, is there this morning. Christine, hello.
Morning, Jim. Yes, I'm here with a giant diplodocus towering above me. It must be about the length of a couple of buses, and it's one of many dinosaurs here at the museum. With me are Dr. Paul Barrett, Bert and Julian Hume, a paleontologist. Now, as you say, it was Richard Owen who founded this place, who also coined the word dinosaur. Paul Barrett, how did that come about?
That's right, yes. There are lots of fragmentary finds in southern England from the early 19th century, but many of these things were very mysterious. We have no real idea what they were. Now, Owen was commissioned to write a report on all these different remains by the British Association, and in doing that he recognised that some of these fossil reptiles were actually rather special, actually much more mammal-like in their anatomy than all the other reptiles he was familiar with. And he used those features to link three animals in particular together to form this amazing group, the dinosaurs, which he named the terrible lizards, largely on the basis of their enormous size.
And if I just wander over here a little bit, there is not a dinosaur, but another very interesting skeleton of a giant 3-metre-high flightless bird, the moa in fact. And Richard Owen, it was quite a triumph of his, and he identified this, didn't he, Julian?
Well, Richard Owen, you must imagine, knew about ostriches and emus and such like, but as for large flightless birds anywhere else, no one knew anything at all. Well, Owen received a small 6-inch fragment of bone from what we have on our bodies, the shin bone, of a large flightless bird, but he didn't know that at the time, and he assumed and staked his reputation on the fact that these birds would be discovered on New Zealand, and he based his whole reputation on one piece of bone. And it turned out to be the case just a few years later that complete specimens were found, and we now know moas, these giant relatives of ostriches, were once found on New Zealand.
Now, he was a brilliant scientist of many great achievements, but just about all his contemporaries hated them, didn't they, Paul? Why was he so disliked?
I think several reasons. I think one reason is simple envy, in that he was so prestigious and so good at what he did that many of his contemporaries just couldn't bear to see him being so successful. He became very well connected to the royal family and so on. I think simple jealousy was a large part of it. But the other thing was he was actually a very aggressive, pompous individual. This aggression probably coming from his success and from some insecurity in his own position. And he used to go and gazump people when they were trying to obtain fossil collections from dealers and so on. He would get in there very quickly and take them out from under their noses. So he got a very bad reputation for stealing other people's materials and for also diminishing the value of other people's work. He would come along and he would undermine people in print and say that everything that they were doing was of course rubbish and that everyone should really listen to him.
How would you sum up over the long term what his contribution to science was?
Well, it's a great shame that people only remember Owen as the dark side of Darwin, in fact, and totally opposed to his theory. But it wasn't really the case. He was cautiously supportive. In fact, over 50 years of research and in his position, he produced some phenomenal work. His science, even today, cannot be touched in a lot of aspects. And he wasn't just a scientist as well. He was a very proficient artist. He was advisor on sanitation to the government. He even taught Queen Victoria's children natural history. So he was a very colourful character, and his work just has not been surpassed, and it was a phenomenal output over that time.